Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. Today we're going to be doing a playthrough of Spirit Island using Vital Strength of the Earth and Shadows Flicker Like Flame. So it's going to be a 2-player or 2-spirit playthrough. Before we jump into it, I do want to make a note that I posted my setup video onto Board Game Geek, and Eric, the designer, was awesome enough to comment on it and let me know that I actually made the game slightly harder because of how I set up the 2 island tiles. So there are 2 different ways, and I didn't get this at first when I was reading the rules, so I'm going to just make this note now so you guys know. There's technically a top and a bottom to these island tiles, and you can tell that by how the numbers are on the actual tiles. So here's bottom and here's top, because you can see the 1 is pointing down this way, so that's the bottom and that's the top. I had my islands top to top, and that makes it a little bit more difficult for reasons I can't even explain. They have it in the FAQ why it's a little bit more difficult. He suggests that, when you're first playing, do bottom to bottom. So the 2 island tiles have the 2 bottom sides connected. It makes it a little bit easier, and actually even just switching them around, so I have switched them around for this playthrough, I can see how it is a little bit easier. Things are closer together. Do I understand how they designed that? No, but it does make sense. So I did make that adjustment, so you can see Earth, our Earth Spirit is over here on this island tile now, and we have shadows over here on this island tile. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, if you would like to see how to set up the game, feel free to check out the video before this on the playlist. Otherwise, let's jump right in. First thing I would like to call out is that the designer here, Eric, did a great job at providing really helpful turn order cards. There's actually 2 cards, each with 2 sides. So there's a total of 4 essential player aids, and they are incredibly helpful. So this is going to help us understand how the turn order works for the game. So we start with what we call the spirit phase. Now the spirit phase is broken out into 3 different phases here: the growth, gain energy, and play and pay for power cards. So we're going to start with growth. I would also like to mention here that under normal circumstances, if you were playing with 2 people, all actions during this game are simultaneous, which is one of the things I love. So you're all doing things at the same time, which is really nice. No one has to wait for a turn. Unfortunately, because I'm doing this solo, I'm going to have to show each one individually, so it might look like there's turns, but there aren't turns, okay? Just so you know. Each spirit has 3 different options they can choose for growth. One will always have what we call a reclaim action. That means that you obtain all of your power cards from your discard pile and put them back into your hand. Here we have add presents, and how this works is, you see these are our presents, and we can put out those presents on the board when we choose growth actions that allow us to. And the nice thing about Earth is no matter which option he chooses, he will always be placing 1 more presence on the board, which is really, really helpful because of his special ability to be able to defend if he has a shrine. But what this means, this icon means you can add 1 presence within a range of 2 of any of your other presents on the board. So if I picked this as my growth action, I could pick up all my discarded power cards and place a growth within a range of 2. Here, I could choose, so that's one option. Our second option here is I could gain a power card. And how gaining power cards work is if I'm gaining a minor power card, looks like this, I will draw 4 of these minor power cards, choose 1, and that 1 goes to my hand. The other 3 get discarded. However, if I decide to gain a major power, these ones are more powerful, but the catch is I then have to forget another power that I already have. It can be from my discard pile, from my hand. Heck, it could even be one that I've already played during the turn if I can somehow gain a power card during the middle of my turn. But I do have to forget, as what they call them. I kind of think of it as, you lose the card. You'll have to lose 1 card to gain that major power card. This icon says that you can add 1 presence at a distance of 0. So basically, this is to be able to create a shrine, because you'll have to be able to place a presence in a location you already have 1 presence. Our third option here is we could add 1 presence at a range of 1 and gain 2 energy. Now, what's energy used for, you might ask? Well, that's how we're going to power up our power cards. You see how there's a 3 here? That means we have to pay 3 energy to be able to use this power card. So one of the ways we gain energy is by using this growth option. Out of these 3 growth options, I get to choose one, and I think I'm going to do this option. So that's going to allow me to place 1 presence, and I'm going to choose this presence in the card plays area. Unfortunately, I'm still only going to be able to play 1 card, but then the next time I grab one, I can start playing more than 1 card around, which is really, really helpful because right now he's got powerful cards, but he can only play 1 around, so he's slow. So this is going to help him kind of gather speed. So I'm going to place that, and I obtain 2 additional energy. Let's look at our Shadow Spirit as well. So here are his 3 options. Reclaim and gain 1 card. Gain 1 card and add a presence within a range of 1 of their other presence. Add presence within a range of 3 and plus 3 energy. And that's definitely the one that we're going to do because first of all, we need some energy. And then I'm also going to grab this presence token so we can actually play 2 cards this round instead of just 1. For our Earth Spirit, we have our shrine here, and so we can place one of our presence within 1 range. So we're going to place 1 presence in these mountains. Now the reason I'm doing this is because here in these mountains during this Invader's action phase, they're going to build a town, and so there'll be a town and an explorer in this location, and they will do 3 points of damage the following round when they ravage in the mountain range. I can, if I can get another presence in here, defend for 3, so then nothing bad will happen to this land. So that's why I'm placing this here, hoping I can protect this land from those invaders. Our Shadow Spirit's going to place his presence right here, and he's got a card that he's hoping he's going to be able to use to help this mountain range. It's not going to be great, but at least it's going to help prevent a huge city being built. That was the growth phase within the spirit phase. So now we move to gain energy. Here we look to see on the farthest left which number we have within the energy per turn area. And for our Earth Spirit, that's 2 energy. So because we gain 2 energy through the growth phase, we also gain 2 energy for the energy phase. So we have a total of 4 energy to use this round. Our Shadow Spirit is not as lucky. We're actually at 0 that we're going to gain around. But that's the whole reason why we grabbed 3 energy with our growth action. So we should be set. The third and final phase within the spirit phase is play and pay for our power cards. So here we have the Earth Spirit's power cards, and these are his basic 4 that he starts out with. Let's talk quick about these cards themselves. Up here, that tells us the cost, and you see how there's a blue border around here? That means that this power card is slow, so it happens after the invaders go. Versus this one, you see how this one's red? That happens first before the invaders have their turn. The icon right here tells us that this is within a range of our presence. So a range of 1 means it's within a range 1 of our presence. And then here tells us our target land. If that target land needs to be anything specific, it'll say so. Like on this card, this means that we have to have that land that we target to use this Rituals of Destruction has to have some Dahen in it, otherwise we can't use it. But this one says any, so we're fine. We then have the actions that will happen because of the card, and each line is its own action. So first we can gather up to 2 explorers, then we can gather up to 2 Dahen. But this card itself can only affect 1 specific land. So I can't gather up to 2 explorers in one land and then gather up to 2 Dahen in another land. It all has to be within that same land. Over here, this is where the game gets really fun. And you get to play when you play these cards, you put out these specific elements. And if you play the appropriate elements, you can activate your innate powers. Now, right off the bat, he's only playing 1 card. He's not going to be able to do that. But as he levels up and starts being able to play more than 1 card, we'll get into seeing how that works. So I think the card that we're going to play first is Draw of the Fruitful Earth. And we're going to place 1 energy on there to remind us that we're using that 1 energy to use that card. Now, it's slow, so it's going to activate after the invaders have taken their turn. So I'm just going to put this up here so I don't forget. And now let's look at Shadows. Here we have our 4 starting power cards for our Shadows Spirit. Concealing Shadows, Favors Called Due, Mantle of Dread, and Crops Wither and Fade. Ooh, they all sound terrible. So we can play 2 cards for the Shadow because that's what we powered up by placing more presence on the board. The two cards that I think we're going to play is the Mantle of Dread and the Crops Wither and Fade. But look at, both of them are slow, so they're going to activate after we have the invaders go. And something that I just want to note when you're playing this from a strategy perspective, you want to think of these cards as you don't have to decide what you're going to do with them right away. Let the board and the actions go, and then you can decide after that where you want to actually use these. So I'm going to have to target specific land at a certain point, but for right now, I don't have to worry about it. I know I'm playing these two cards, but I don't need to decide which land they're going to target until we get to that specific phase. After you have completed playing your and paying for your power cards, we have now completed the spirit phase. Now we move back over to this card, and this says to play any of our fast power cards. Now technically we haven't played any fast power cards, except for Shadow. Our Shadow Spirit has activated one of his innate powers, and let me show you how this works. Here we have Shadow's innate powers. As long as we have played 2 moon elements and 1 fire element, we can gather 1 explorer and pull them into a specific land that's within 1 region of a location that we have a shrine. And it is a fast action. And we can do this because the 2 cards that we played, this one has a moon and a fire, and this one has a moon and a fire. So that's 2 moons and technically 2 fires, but we still have enough for 2 moons and 1 fire. Now what's kind of cool about this game, and you just need to make sure you know this, is when you put those elements out into the air for your specific spirit, you can't share them unless you have a power card that lets you. Also, it's not where you use up those elements, so if I had some other ability that used another 2 moons, I could activate that still, because those 2 moons are still there. It's not that I have used them up with the power cards. So now what I can do is gather 1 explorer within a range of 1 of where I have a shrine. I'm lucky enough to have a shrine right here, and I know they're going to build in the mountains this round. So I am going to pull this explorer into the jungle here. I am gathering that explorer into this location so then they won't build or ravage in the mountains. So that was our only fast action that we have. Now let's go to the invaders phase. First thing we do is we look to see if we have a blighted island effect. Do you remember that healthy island card that we had placed at the beginning of the setup video? Well, that one is still at healthy, so we still have a healthy island, so we can ignore that. But if ever we have a non-healthy island, that's when the bad effects start happening. If we've earned any fear cards, we'd get to flip them over now and take their effects. Usually they're good. I mean, I've only seen good ones for us. Bad for the invaders. But right now, we don't have any. We haven't earned any fear. Then what we do is we look at the 3 main actions for the invaders. We have Ravage, Build, and Explore. And then at the end of that, we have our slow powers that we can activate, and then time passes, we just clean everything up and move to the next round. Here we have the invaders deck. What we first do is we look to see if there's any specific land region in the Ravage area. If there was, we would start seeing the invaders attack the land. And I more think of it as them using up the resources, and if there's Dahin there, having some sort of skirmish fight. But right now there's no land here, so we'll ignore that and we'll move on. Next we have building. They do have land here. We have a mountain region, so in all the mountain regions, they're going to build. So there are 4 of each type of region, so we have 4 mountain regions here. In this region, we have an explorer. So that explorer is going to help build a town. That town and that explorer is going to do 3 points of damage during the Ravage phase next turn in the mountain area. Here we already have a city and an explorer. So since we have more cities than towns, we're going to build another town in this region. If, let's say, we were building here again and this was what we already had here, we would build yet another town because we still have equal amounts of towns as cities. But if we have 2 towns and 1 city, we then would place another city. So you can see you'll always have more towns before you start getting another city. But we have a city, a town, and an explorer here. And if you think about it, a city is 3 points of damage, a town is 2 points of damage, and an explorer is 1. So that's 6 points of damage to this land. That's not going to be good. Now, in this region, though, because we gathered that explorer, there is nobody here to build. So we don't have to do anything. Yes. And then unfortunately over here, we do have an explorer and we have a town. So because there's more towns than there's cities, we see the invaders build a city. So that's 3, 4, 5. That's another 6 points of damage. Ugh. What I like to do is after each action is completed, I'll move the card down to the next spot. So you can see next round, they are going to ravage in the mountains. And now they're going to explore. And how they do that is we draw the top card here. Oh, they're going to explore in the jungle. We look to find all 4 of the jungle locations. If they have presence there or they have presence adjacent to it, we place 1 explorer. So all 4 of them, they are still adjacent to. So we'll place 1 explorer in each of these jungle regions. That will end the invader's turn. Now is the fun part. We get to play all of our slow powers. And since all of our power cards that we played were slow, we're going to be able to activate all 3 of them. So the first card I think we're going to activate is this Crops Wither and Fade by the Shadow Spirit. And remember, because this is all simultaneous, we can do this in any order that we want. And technically we can be doing this at the same time. I just can't. So what we do here is we look to see, okay, it's slow, so we know that. Range 0, so it's going to have to be in a spot that we have presence, but it can be in any target land. We automatically just create 2 fear, and then we can replace 1 town with 1 explorer, or replace 1 city with 1 town. Here's our pool of fear, and we will place 2 into our generated fear pool. We now just need 6 more in here before we can earn our first fear card. Over here, in this mountain region, because we have presence here, we're going to change this city tile, or city invader, into a town invader. So that means there's only 5 points of damage here instead of 6. A little bit easier to take care of, hopefully. And then we'll place this card into our discard pile. Our second card we'll play is the Mantle of Dread. So this one will create 2 more fear, which is awesome, and then target spirit may push 1 explorer and 1 town from one of their lands. We're going to target the Earth Spirit for this, and you'll see why in a second. But first, let's grab our 2 more fear. Yeah. We're going to push this explorer out of this jungle region. And we're doing that because now they won't build or ravage in this jungle location, which is great. Our Earth Spirit is now going to use the draw of the Fruitful Earth. He can gather up to 2 explorers and gather up to 2 Dahin within range 1 of any of his presence on the board, and in any target location. We have presence on the board right here in this mountain region. Within a range of 1 can be this location, and we're going to gather in this location. So we're going to gather these 2 explorers and these 2 Dahin into this location right here. Awesome. That way, they are not going to be building or ravaging in this jungle region either. We have now completed our first turn. Woohoo! We get to our time phase. We didn't put any tokens out or anything, so we're good here. So now we go back to the spirit phase, looking at growth. To start our next round, we look to see which growth action we want to take. And I think this time we're going to do this gain 1 power card and add a presence at a 0 range. So we're going to add another presence from the card play areas, so now we can play 2 cards around. If this is the first time that you're playing, this is where you would just follow that simple progression that you have for your specific character. But when you play normally, you draw 4 cards from the top of the deck that you want. So I'm going for a minor power, obviously, and I'll grab these 4 cards, look at them, and then choose 1 to put into my hand. Here we have the 4 cards that we can choose from. Now there's a lot of things to think about. First of all, you want to look at the abilities. But second of all, you want to look at the elements that maybe would be useful for that specific spirit. We know Sun is going to be beneficial for our Earth Spirit, and this ability looks awesome. If invaders are present, we get 1 fear for that. And then if the target land is sands or water, we can also remove 1 of those blight tokens, which is great because those blight tokens are terrible and we don't want them on the board. This 9 root biters is awesome because you can push towns, but I just see this being a little bit better, especially for the Earth Spirit, because he's going to have so many of these shrines, because that's where he's going to get those defend 3s. So I really like this card. So I think I'm going to grab this one. The other 3 get discarded. For our Shadow Spirit, I think the one that we're going to do is this one as well. Gain 1 power card and add 1 presence within a range of 1. So we're going to grab this presence so we can start gaining energy every round. Because we only have 2 cards in our hand, it's silly to go to the 3. We're not going to be able to play 3 cards. So let's grab this presence and let's see which power cards we're going to grab. We're also going to grab from the minor deck here as well. So I'll grab these 4 cards and let's look at them. Wow, you guys, we have a lot of good options here. We've got this Call to Migrate, which can let us gather and push Dahin. So essentially, we can move them up to 2 lands easily. That's really cool. This Elemental Boon, we can target a spirit gains 3 different elements of their choice. That means they could probably get their special ability. And if you target another spirit, you also gain those elements as well. Oh, that's awesome. But do you see this? This has the little red on it. That's because normally you'd see this in that regular power progression. And look at this. Replace 1 Explorer with a Dahin. Oh, I mean, the Dahin are an amazing asset in this game. And there's really not a lot of ways for you to get them back. So when you start losing them, you lose them for good. But this card lets you bring them back, and you can change invaders into Dahin because you convert them. You call them to the Dahin ways. And it gives us more moons, which is something that we need for our elements to do our innate powers. Taking this one. So I think we're going to place the Earth's presence or essence in this location, and the Shadow's essence, man, in this location. So it has to be within a range of 1. Oh, and I can't do this because it was a range of 0. Sorry, you guys. So this is going to have to be, because this is what I was planning on, to get another shrine here. So that's okay. That'll work. Now we go to our gathering energy. And so our Earth Spirit gets together 2 energy, and our Shadow Spirit gains 1 energy. After gaining energy, we have to pay and play our power cards, and we're going to have our Shadow Spirit play both Favors Call Due and Call of the Dahin Ways. Both of these cards, though, are going to be slow, so they'll happen after the invaders go. And unfortunately, we're just creating 2 moon elements, so we're not going to be able to activate any of our innate powers. For our Earth Spirit, we're going to play this Uncanny Melting. So that's going to be 1 energy, but that is slow. And that gives us 1 sun and 1 moon, but we really just want the sun. And then we're also going to play this Rituals of Destruction. This card costs 3 energy, gives us more sun, and it unfortunately doesn't give us the elements that we need for our innate power. So don't worry about that. But this also is slow, but it has to be in a region that contains Dahin. So as you can see, my spirits that I picked are generally slow, at least the cards I've been playing so far. So you're not going to see a ton of fast actions, but that might change as we gain power cards. Okay, let's now go to the invaders phase since there are no fast action power cards. Looking at the invaders cards here, we have Ravage in the mountains. So that's the first thing that they're going to do is Ravage in the mountains. This is where you get to learn a little bit about combat, which is kind of cool. So we'll look at each region individually, since each one actually is a little bit different. In this region, we have 1 Explorer that would do 1 damage to the land and 2 damage here for this town. But we have our awesome Earth Spirit here, and he has a shrine. So he defends for 3. But they still are considered to be attacking both the land and this Dahin. But our Earth Spirit protects them. So then this Dahin will retaliate. The Dahin will only attack if they're provoked or if we play a card to have them attack. But this Dahin will attack since they did attack, our Earth Spirit just defended. Our Dahin do 2 points of damage. So he can take out this town. Whenever you take out a town, you gain 1 fear. Now we're talking only 3 more fear to gain our first fear card. Since we defended this mountain region, they do not put Blight on this region. Normally they'd place Blight if they do 2 or more damage. Even if we have Dahin there to soak up the damage, they do damage both to the Dahin and to the mountains. The only way you can prevent that is by defending, which is why the Earth Spirit is awesome. So we've defended here. In this region, there are no invaders, so we don't have to worry about it. Unfortunately, in this region here, we have 3, 4, 5, 6 points of damage. That is more than 2, so this land becomes blighted. We're going to have to grab 1 of the 4 blights on this card to place in that region. We may be spirits, but we can't stop everything. So we'll place that blight here, and then in this location, 2, 4, 5 points of damage. We'll also place blight here. And the shadows has presence in that location, and so that presence withers away. And we have to discard it from the entire game. It doesn't go back on the shadows board to use again. He's lost that presence forever. Well, that was no fun, right? Now they're going to build in the jungle. This is where our forward planning is going to pay off. In both of these locations, there are no invaders. So that means we're just going to add 2 towns in those 2 regions, which actually is quite good if you think about it. We're only on round 2, and we're already limiting them in specific lands. Lastly, let's see where they're going to explore. And that is the wetlands. They're still adjacent to all 4 wetlands regions, so we're going to place an explorer in each one of these. So you can see what you're trying to do is control their outbreaks. Easier said than done, and so far I'm failing, but I'm only in the 2nd round, and now it's time for us to fight back. First thing we're going to do is play this Call of the Dahin Ways. Now, we do have 2 moon elements that we've played, because we're playing both of these cards, and we have 2 moon elements, so we can, instead of replacing an explorer with a Dahin, we may now replace a town with a Dahin. And it has to be in a location that we already have 1 Dahin, and I know just the place. The card mentioned that it have to be within 1 of our presence. So we're here, we can target this location and convert this entire town to be another Dahin group. Yeah. We're then going to play this gather up to 4 Dahin. If invaders are present and Dahin now outnumber them, 3 fear, which could create our first fear card. We're doing this within a range of 1 of our presence, and so we can pick any land. So we're going to move 3 of these over to here for our Dahin, and now we outnumber the invaders, so that's going to be 3 fear. 3 fear is just enough to fill up our pool, so we put this back, and now we place this top fear card in the earned fear card spot, and next round, before the invaders go, we get to draw that and resolve its effect. We're going to have the Earth Spirit play Uncanny Melting and Rituals of Destruction. Both of them are within 1 range of a shrine, and this one has to be targeting a location that has Dahin. Let's do this one first. We're doing 2 damage, and if the target land has at least 3 Dahin, which it does, we're going to do another 3 damage and another 2 fear. So we're going to create 2 fear and 5 damage. Within range 1 of a shrine will be this location. So we are going to destroy this town. Now that's going to create 1 fear there, and then we also are going to create 2 more fear because of the card. So we're going to create 3 fear, and because we got to increase that to 5 damage, we can also take out this explorer. Killing explorers or destroying explorers does not create fear. We just made 3 more fear. Yeah. Our Uncanny Melting card can target this location. We have invaders here, so that creates 1 fear. Unfortunately, there's no blight here, so we can't do anything about the blight. We simply just create 1 fear. I'm a tad bit bummed about that. I read the card wrong. I thought it said J, but it's S and W, kind of small writing when you're standing up. And so I was hoping to get rid of that blight in the jungle, but I couldn't. Now, I just want you guys to see this because this is part of the game, the strategic part of the game. If you look at the 4 jungle spots now, there's only 1 invader in the jungle area, and it's only an explorer. Explorers only do 1 point of damage, so they're not going to be able to ravage the land at all this next round. Because remember, the jungle is where they're going to ravage. So we can focus on the wetlands next time. So you kind of have to think 1 turn in advance with these slow cards to be able to effectively take care of the invaders on those specific locations. Part of the reason why I love this game. It's so fun to be having to think turns in advance and which things you want to do now, which things do you want to do later. Oh, I love it. With this, we'll start the next round and go back to the growth phase.